Hey, what's up, y'all? Happy Hump Day. Is that still a thing? Are we still doing that? I forget. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Happy Wednesday, y'all. Happy February 6th. Hope everyone's having a good work day if you're here in the States. If you're overseas, hopefully you're enjoying your evening. So there's that. So welcome, everybody. All right. Wow, there's a million atoms in chat all right in a row right there. That was pretty funny. So, yeah, Ask the Elephant. If you guys are new to the channel, then this is a Q&A with y'all and me live. So, we get to do this for I say it's 2 hours, could be 90 minutes. I'll let the laughing settle down for a minute. It could be 3 hours. Probably going to be close around 2 hours today unless you guys lack questions, then it'll go shorter. So, there's that. But it's probably going to be capped at 2 hours here today. All right. Oh, happy birthday to Board Game Trucker. Awesome. All right. Cool. All right. Nice. Wow. Israel, we got most of the globe, all time zones, it seems. All right. So while everyone is getting settled in, I got a bunch of questions from various patrons here, so I figure I would go ahead and start here. Clay, what was your favorite gaming experience in 2018? Man, I have thought about this for a couple of days, and this is not an easy choice. It could be being able to play Asgard with Mariano and Veronica at LyriaCon, and then hearing Uli sing Isolon Roostas from the balcony up above. That was pretty awesome. That at LyriaCon, that was good. Let's see, playing Pax Pamir with Jess, Cole, and Jordan Draper at Essen. That was pretty good. Playing Pax Pamir with Drew and Cole and Jess, and trying to think who else. Oh, the head of Fun Again Games at BGGCon. That was awesome. The Brides and Bribes live stream was one for the ages. I still say go back and watch that if you haven't. I think that was one of the most fun gaming experiences I've had. That was pretty good. Show related. One of the coolest moments I had last year was at Essen, and had one of our patrons come up and told me that his mom recently had to have her hip replaced, I believe it was. And beforehand, she was in a lot of pain. And she got into Antiquity, and so they would play two-player Antiquity together, which he got turned on to from the show. And his mom told him that, I got to tell you that when we play games together like this, and specifically she was talking about her game of Antiquity with him, my hip didn't hurt. And that was a pretty amazing moment. Getting a geek mail from somebody who told me about a friend of his that recently passed from cancer, and by the way, to cancer, telling me that our live streams helped him with getting through his when he had no energy, or going through chemo and going through the treatments and everything. Being able to watch our live streams, and how he talked about us being friends of his, even though we'd never met, and how that just helped him in his final months. That wow, right? So gaming and show related, that's a handful of some of the highlights. Meeting the fellas from Malaysia at Essen was pretty amazing. Playing Escape Plan with Paul Grogan, having taught it at Origins, that was a hoot. That was a blast. But yeah, just playing games in general. It was a good time last year when I was able to. So good stuff. 2019's been off to an amazing start. So I'm excited about this year. So hopefully that answers that question, Clay. So here we go. Let me go ahead and catch up here in chat. Jim says, excellent Great Western Trails podcast. It's probably been covered, but what do coming War Game plays reviews look like in 2019? I apologize, I didn't bring my list of games that are scheduled, but we have Washington's War coming. Let me think. We have, I hate trying to do this off the top of my head. I'm terrible at this. A handful of games from Compass Games coming. We have Hannibal coming, Churchill, which technically is a political game, so not really war game, I realize. There are a couple others that I can't think of. If I can think of them over the course of the rest of the Ask the Elephant, I will mention them, Jim. If not, then ask me either in the guild, which is 2044 over on BGG, or on social media or somewhere, and I will get you an answer once I have the list sitting in front of me. I'm terrible about being able to do that. I apologize. But I know that Washington's War and Hannibal are both coming. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't think of the others off the top of my head. How do you pronounce it? Is it Ruari? I apologize. I'm trying here. Do you think Suburbia would be a good school night game? Absolutely. I think that'd be totally fine. I think that plays in, what, like 75, 90 minutes? I think that's a perfect school night game. Yeah, definitely. In this year of the moon landing's 50th anniversary, will we see Heavy Cardboard do a teach and playthrough of High Frontier? Well, Ian, that is a strong possibility for two reasons. One, honestly, if we can hit the milestone, which that milestone hopefully is going to get updated in the next 48 hours over on pledgehc.com, if the patrons hit the threshold to number of patrons that we're going to be setting for us to be able to get a PTZ camera, then the answer is yes. Also, we are in discussions as we speak. In fact, this is one of the questions that one of the patrons asked, and it kind of ties in. So I'll kind of do both here. Any news that you can share in terms of collaboration with Sierra Madre Games and Phil, which also by default would be Ion Game Design. Hence, you'll notice you see Operation or Expedition Zeta behind me. I think you've mentioned something about it in the Essen Hall videos. Yes, I can say that we are deep in discussion about partnering up. And just so to be clear, what that means is sponsored live streams for everything that Ion Game Design comes out with, meaning all of Phil Eklund games, as well as the Ion Game Designs, which Expedition Zeta is one of, then all of the Sierra Madre games, and that also includes High Frontier, the next one. However, we need to have the technical ability to do so. So for those that aren't familiar, High Frontier is a massive board, and it's more than one board. It is a huge footprint. Well, our camera that we use up here to stream is really good. However, just like a normal camera, when you zoom in to a central point, right? Like, so if this camera here were to zoom in on me, it can't zoom in right here. It can't zoom in over off camera, over here. It zooms in right here, dead center, right? A PTZ camera, pan tilt zoom, what that does is basically it can move around and zoom into here and zoom into here and zoom into here. And so the plan is when we get to a certain threshold, a certain milestone, and we can purchase one or two of those, here is the plan. The first one that we purchase is going to go up above next to where our regular camera is. So here's a little behind sausage making process. I have a little keyboard right here. So I am my own producer because everything is done live and everything is me. So when we switch cameras, it's me doing it through this keyboard right here. However, when we get a PTZ camera has the ability to pre-program certain points on the board and to snap to a zoom on a certain point on a board. So for High Frontier, I could break that up into, say, 12 different pre-programmed scenes, or 12 pre-program, okay, the top left of the board, the top center of the board, the top right of the board. That's 1, 2, 3. And I could hit 1, 2, or 3 on a keyboard and then go live to that camera, and it automatically goes to that area. And I think that is going to be the best way to be able to show off a game of that magnitude. So, to answer your question, it's in plans? Yes. Is it technically feasible and be able to let you guys be able to see everything on what it is that we're doing? Not currently. Is that the immediate goal of things? Yes. The second PTZ camera, which I realize you didn't really ask for, what that's going to be is to mount another camera back here. And the reason for that is to be able to have it look over my shoulder here at the table and be able to zoom in for block war games so people can play from my perspective along. And I think that's the best way to stream games, because let's face it, and this isn't to discredit or badmouth or fill in the right word any other channel that chooses to live stream games. But let's face it, for me, I want you guys to be able to have the game first and foremost, the most clear thing, be able to follow along with the action and be able to make heads or tails of everything that you can see on the board, or make sure that you can see everything on the board. Therefore, visual quality is a very big deal to me, because I want you guys to be able to make sense of it and be able to understand how the game is being played and to be able to play along or follow along. So that said, that those two things are prerequisites for those two types of games, a massive game like High Frontier and Block War games. So those are going to be the goals. So not to shill myself, but kind of, if you guys want to see stuff like that, go to pledgehc.com, which is directly below me right here, and become a patron. And I am going to have all the milestones and everything updated within the goal is the next 48 hours. I will guarantee that they are updated by the end of the weekend, to be able to see how that is going to be. It's going to be based on number of patrons as opposed to a dollar amount. And yeah, we'll go from there. I think the first one was 800 patrons for the first PTZ camera, I think is the goal that we are going to be setting. So 800 patrons. So we are 71 away. So that said, if that's something that interests you, there you go. All right. So hopefully that helps answer your question, Ian. John asked a question, and I'll be honest, this is the first I'm hearing about it. So there's been discussion about the controversy the name of GMT's Mr. President, both in Slack and on the game's BGG forum. Really? If you've read any of these, would you like to offer your 2 cents? I have not read any of them, and I don't know what the arguments are being made. Is it because Mr. as opposed to Mrs. President, or something, just the president or something like that? If that's it, and I hesitate delving into these waters without having a clear understanding of what the discussion was about, but I'm going to go under that premise. As of February 6, 2019, there have only been Mr. Presidents. So I'm okay with the name. If they changed it to the President, I would be okay with that too. I really don't see a problem with it. I feel like this is something that people are looking to be upset about. Like, why is this? I don't see it as sexism. It's just, it's how it's been from now, previous, all through history of this state, of the United States. If a woman gets elected, great. I'm all for it. The president is fine too. I don't have a dog in the fight, so I don't think that GMT was doing it to be sexist or fill in the right word here. I just don't see it as a problem. So I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm okay either way, honestly. And if that wasn't the discussion, those are my feelings about it either way. Tiago, got a chance to purchase a used Founders of Gloomhaven. Is it good? Well, go back and watch our stream. I enjoyed it. It has a the Great Zimbabwe feel to it, kind of, and which is interesting because Isaac has said that he hadn't, at least at the time he had designed Founders of Gloomhaven, he'd never played the Great Zimbabwe. It's a logistics game. It has nothing to do with Gloomhaven other than the theme of the game, and it definitely has a cascading effect of the game where scoring upon scoring upon scoring can be triggered, and I enjoyed my plays of it. I haven't played the final version of it, just moving on to the next game type stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed my plays of it thus far. Oof, Jason, what's your favorite drafting game? Man, I'm telling you, I am terrible about on the spot like these type of questions where I have to go through a catalog of games. So let me stall. It's Constant Comment. I bought Earl Grey. I have it loose leaf. However, I was a bit of a rush this morning, so I just grabbed a bag, realized it was decaf. That wasn't going to cut it, so we went with Constant Comment today. Off the top of my head, Jason, and I reserve the right to go back and change this, but I'm going to go with Neue Heimat / The Estates as possibly my favorite drafting game. Maybe. It's up there at least, so I feel good to say it's one of my favorite. How's that? Okay, John clarifies what the Mr. President controversy. I put controversy in quotes because limiting player invitation effect of that? No, I don't see that at all. How is that somehow anti-woman? Anti-anything? No, it's not at all that. I think that's people looking for a problem where there isn't one. I don't think that was the intent. I don't feel like that's the feel of it. That thought has never once crossed my mind, ever. Obviously, it has others, but I really feel like that's a solution. No, it's not. No, just stop. No. I'm all for inclusivity. I don't care. Male, female, gay, straight, trans. It doesn't matter. Are you an enjoyable person to be around and play games with? Yes? Then absolutely, please. You are welcome at our table anytime. Anytime. So, no, just don't go looking for problems where there aren't any. Just don't do that. That said, if people want to change it, if they want to, had they named it The President, I would have been totally fine. I'm not anti one way or the other. Just, I think making a big deal about something that isn't a big deal shouldn't be a big deal, I feel like. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So anyway, moving on. Escape Plan. Orlando says, saw the first unboxing. I saw part of that. Oh my. Have you ever just brain cramped and ever done it on camera? Vital. Wow. Sorry, my friend. Yeah, I saw Vital's unboxing of On Mars, and I'm excited to get a copy of it. Escape Plan, not On Mars. Sorry. No, don't freak out. Don't go looking for it. It's Escape Plan. I'm looking forward to it. It's not my favorite of his games, but that doesn't mean I don't want to play it more. I do. And you're definitely going to be seeing it on the show here in the coming months. So look forward to that. Yeah, so Jim says I count Churchill as a war game. Eh, I mean, I'm not trying to split hairs, kind of like Twilight Struggle. Is it a war game? I'm not trying to do that. So I'll call it a political slash war game. I hear you. Cool on Compass. So I guess I can announce this here. That kind of like we're in discussions with Ion Game Design for to do sponsored live streams for all of their games, which include Phil Eklund games. We also have an agreement in place with Compass Games to do similar for them. It's not going to be every one of their games. It's definitely going to be all of their Euros since Uli has been brought on. That also is going to include some of their war games as well as a certain space theme game that's going to be coming out later on this year. So it's going to include that. So happy to announce that partnership. And let me clarify something. When I say partnership, what that means is we're going to do sponsored live streams of their games. That's it. No more, no less. That's it. Just the end. Doesn't mean that we're selling out. Doesn't mean that they're sponsoring the channel. Doesn't mean they're sponsoring the show. We're just going to do sponsored live streams for their games. That's it. So it allows us to be able to present their games earlier than we would normally be able to if we are able to get advanced copies, which we should be getting, and being able to bring it and show it off to you guys for games that are going to be Kickstartered or traditional publishing routes. This way you guys can make informed decisions. So I'm really, really excited about that one partnership and soon to be two partnerships. So looking forward to that. And we I guess technically we have an agreement with Capstone Games as well, but you guys kind of know that already. So there's that. Rory. Okay, got it. All right, thank you for that. I attempted. All right, I tried. I appreciate that you appreciate the attempt. Yes, Jim, and it's a long one, but it's going to be and it's going to be the base game with some of the colonization involved as well. So we'll more on that when we get a PTZ camera and we can start talking more about that. All right. Hello, TT. Ian says, really interesting about the PTZ camera equipment and work, along with the plans to move the channel forward. Great work. I appreciate that. But honestly, that's going to be dependent on whether or not people want to see it, if that's something they choose to support so that we can afford the camera. The cameras are the good ones. They're, upwards of $2,500 to $4,000. So that's hence why we're not going out and buying one right now. Speaking of buying new equipment, this is something that wasn't asked, but I figure I would tell you guys about. I am really excited about this. So for those that have watched any of our live streams, not so much this one and these, but whenever we have our podcast mics, the RE20s, these things are, well, they're the gold standard for audio recording, whether it is live audio for radio, so like NPR, whether it's CBS radio, and ESPN, any of that. These are the mics that they use. These are pretty well leveled. Plus, we have other equipment behind the scenes that take care of these. However, if you watch our normal live stream playthroughs, our lapel mics, we don't have a compressor. And so you'll notice some of the audio, peaks and valleys, especially when we all laugh. And let's face it, me, Jess, Martin, when we were in Denver, Brian, some of us are louder than others. And so it can be a little shocking and a little jarring when we laugh and bust out and it gets really, really loud sometimes. Well, I have since ordered a pretty good compressor. which basically what that means is that's going to level out that audio for the live stream. So look for that starting next week. Unfortunately, it won't be here in time for this week's live streams. Late next week, we should have it implemented and hopefully dialed in by then. And yeah, really excited about the newest piece of kit to be able to bring you guys. Does it help? Does it change anything as far as the presentation? No, but you'll hear a difference, which I think is part of that presentation. So I'm really excited to be able to bring that to you guys. So yeah, stoked for that. All right, David asks, how do you feel about app-driven games where the mechanisms of the game's mechanics of the game are driven by an electronic device? I'm a little wary spending enough time on my phone already. And honestly, David, I mostly agree with you on this. If I want to play a video game, I'm going to throw on like Skyrim, or I'll go out around the house, you know, go walking around or drive around and go to a park and go play Pokemon Go or something like that. I don't want to be, I do it kind of like you. I do enough screen time, whether it's my computer screen when I'm prepping stuff for the show up in my office or whether I'm on my phone here. For the most part, I am not a fan of that stuff at all. My other concern is we still enjoy older games here at Heavy Cardboard, and so 5, 10, 15 years from now, when we're be able to play these games, will the apps be supported if they're integral part of the game? Is it a huge issue? That last part, less so, but honestly, I want to unplug to be able to play games. Now, I realize I say this as somebody who live streams games, and obviously I have cameras, I have lights, I have the screen, I have all the equipment and everything. I get that. But you know what I'm saying. As far as just playing games with our friends and being able to, I don't want screens in front of my face. So personally, not a real big fan of it. Also, if you go back and you listen to our review of Through the Ages, you hear Gaurav and I talk about how the app can help lessen the learning curve for a game like that. But at the same time, I also have heard from other folks that say, since I have had the app, I've had no interest in bringing the game back to the table. Then all of a sudden, is it a board game anymore, or is it just an app or a video game? And isn't that what we're trying to get away from when we're playing these board games? So it's kind of a slippery slope. So to answer your question, nah, not really a big fan. So I'm there with you, David. I don't want that. Or if I do, I want it at such a small part of it that it's, I don't want to say extraneous, but I don't want it to be the focus. And I would prefer it just not be included. I'm not a huge fan of app games as far as being a part of board games. Those are different entities, and I get different things from them. So not a fan personally. Lost my place. Hold on. And last thing about the whole Mr. President thing, the Oval Office or the president. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with it. And I realize that it's not talking about historical presidents. I'm okay either way. I just don't feel like it's condemning parts of the population to not play the game. But maybe I'm I don't know. But I totally support if they change it to the Oval Office. I think that'd be arguably a better choice. I can see that. Jim, as of today, where are you with Space Corp? Fairly divisive. I like it. Very solid solo. We're going to be reviewing it in a handful of weeks. on the podcast. Where am I? I'm pretty much where I was at the end of the live stream, which is I like the first two eras much more than the third. I think it's a solid game. I don't dislike the game. I would play it again if people want to play it. In fact, I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it solo as well as 2 players. And we'll talk about it more on the show and see if that changes my viewpoint on it. But as it is, I think it's fine. I just don't think it is the end all be all for me. All right. With Nail, I think is how you say it. Yeah. Any chance of having a coin game on the show? Yep. Colonial Twilight is on the soft schedule for a couple of months in the future, so look for that. That'll be the first one on the stream. Jason, are you doing a game of the month this month? Haven't listened to the podcast lately, but really enjoyed the new format. We are, and that game of the month is Reef Encounter. So I mentioned this to the patrons in the patron update on Sunday, and a lot of folks have been clamoring for that game to be shown off for literally years on the show, and it's about time we dust off Reef Encounter. So this one's going to be a little bit different because it's not a new game. So the first impressions, well, I've played it in an unboxing. It's an old game. I have mine unboxed. So I don't think we're going to necessarily include those aspects of it, but we're going to do a setup video for it. We are going to do a full teach and playthrough and roundtable, and then eventually do a review of Reef Encounter. So yeah, looking forward to that. I'm excited. I'm excited to be able to have this new format of a game of the month not be just a new hotness game, but being able to reach back into the collection and go with some older titles. I'm excited about that. TT asked, do you know something about the new Food Chain Magnate expansion? I know about as much as you guys do. I did play it. Jess and I and Jeroen played a 3-play. Well, I shouldn't say that. Jeroen played it and we played at it. Had a couple of the expansions in there. We had the coffee expansion, and I think we had one other that I can't think of in there. But they're all modular expansions, and they are going to flip the game on its head in that I know Food Chain Magnate has certain predetermined better starting strategies than others. And I think this is going to significantly impact that, because when we last talked to Jeroen at Essen about it, there were at least 5, and they had over 16 different modules. But he said there's not going to be all of them in the game. Some of them are going to get cut out. So how many are going to be included, I'm not sure. But kimchi is another one, and every house, if you have kimchi, wants kimchi, so it gives you priority for if you have kimchi and you can fulfill an order at a house, that they will come and visit your restaurant first. So different cool things. The coffee expansion has it to where there are coffee drive-thrus. So if on the way to a restaurant, they pass a coffee drive-through. I'm convinced this is inspired by Jess, for the simple fact that, oh, hey, coffee, stop. And so they will always buy coffee on the way to a restaurant. And it is a way to seriously make some money in that game. And Jeroen showed us just how powerful that thing can be. He also described how to thwart that and how we didn't do those things. So yeah, really looking forward to the Food Chain Magnate expansion. But as far as any more, as far as what is involved and what is included, that I don't know any more than you guys do. New board order. What was my most overrated and underrated game of 2018? Not to avoid the question, But I think until we do the Golden Elephant Award later on this year for last year, I don't think I can really fairly answer that yet. A, there's still games that I haven't played, and B, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag on games that may or may not be included in that. So can we table that until later this spring, early summer? Okay. Jordan, do you think legacy games fall into the heavy cardboard theme? I would say more heavy cardboard umbrella might be a better way to put that, but I get what you're saying, Jordan. I don't think there's any that have been made thus far that do. Not only that, but I hesitate to do any legacy games as streams because, well, spoilers, right? The exception of that might be one of the exit rooms, which, or the exit games, like, okay, because there's so many of them, if we spoiled one of them, there's enough that other people can go and enjoy. So I think that would be I think that might be something that we could do, which I realize those aren't really legacy, those are escape rooms. But I'm trying to think anything that has kind of spoilerable things, I think we try and avoid. We made an exception already on Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. We did one of the available cases in that. But also, I don't think the legacy games being either co-ops or lighter games really fit with a lot of what we're trying to do here on Heavy Cardboard. There can be exceptions made, obviously, but for the most part, any campaign type thing like that, I don't think. No, I don't want to say the campaign now that I think about that. I would say more the legacy aspect of it, just the spoilerable and having multiple streams with the spoilers in it. I don't think that's something that we're looking to do. And I think that would limit people's enjoyment on their own of those games. So there's something that we could do to where like we do like the first game of whatever legacy game. That's something that we conceivably could do. But past that, I would say no for like any kind of legacy campaign. All right. Dominant species legacy. See, even that I wouldn't want to ruin it for you guys. It doesn't exist, but just saying. Kurt, I know you're one of the folks that's most excited about the compressor, but yes, it is coming. So yeah, consider supporting the show, folks. It helps getting new equipment and upgrading everything. Board Game Trucker, I did not see your question. I apologize. It says, can you help? Can you offer any help whether to back and oh boy, I'm going to butcher this, Tokyo Tsujiki Market? Not much info out there. Any comparison to Container or Impressions? I know as much as you do at this point. So as of right now, I can't help. I'm sorry. I don't have any insider knowledge. I've not played the game. I got nothing for you, man. I apologize for that. Awesome. Ian says, hi, Edward. Love the channel. 1846, 18CZ are newish in my collection as a result of your streams. Awesome. Excited to break out CZ. Next up, Sekigahara, Unification of Japan. Awesome. I think Sekigahara is going to be the first Block War game that we ever stream once we get the second PTZ camera for back here. I think that's the one that I think would make the most sense and be the best example to start off what a Block War game can be. I'm really stoked for that game. Plus, it's gorgeous. It I think will present well, and it's a really easy jumping off point for a Block War game. So I would really like to be able to do that one. Lost my place again. All right. With Nail, being mostly a solo gamer, I sometimes encounter mixed reactions to solo board gaming. Are you a friend or scoffer to the solo gaming experience? Why would anybody begrudge you or judge or scoff at you playing games solo? Where the problem at? Dude, I totally support that. Um Normally, and this is not a hard fast rule, but I've done one or two solo live streams so far here on the show. Mostly my solo gaming used to be video games, stuff like Skyrim, Fallout, stuff like that. That's just tends to be where I would go. However, I definitely want to get more solo streams here on the show. So I think stuff like not only all the Euros and mainstream games. I say mainstream, but mostly talking Euros that can be streamed, but also solo war games, as well as stuff that kind of falls in its own category, like a Nemo's War, but stuff like D-Day at Omaha Beach, as well as being able to solo stuff like Space Corp or other Euro E type games. Yeah, totally support it. Play what you dig and play how you dig. There's no wrong way to go about doing this. So yeah, definitely support it. Sean, have you had a chance to play Concord Venus since early last year? No, not yet. Thinking about getting the full game that includes a bunch of expansion stuff. We've streamed Concordia. If you enjoy Concordia and you saw the stream or you are familiar enough with the game and you're thinking about getting it and it's something that you think you would enjoy, then get it. Even though I have not played Concordia Venus, everything that I have seen, because I've seen it played a number of times, and having talked to Matt Gertz in person about it when I was at LyriaCon, he went and described everything that was in it. You can go back and listen to that pod blast from LyriaCon. There's nothing there that would dissuade me from wanting to play Concordia. In fact, that has been one of the best expansions for Concordia, in my opinion. The idea of the partnership sounds really cool. And you're talking to somebody who's not really big on co-ops. So I think that would only enhance the game. I think that would be really, really cool. So yeah, highly recommend, just based on what I've seen and my experience on the base game and the expansion maps. I think Concordia Venus is only a plus to that, even having not played it, having seen it and knowing what it brings. I think it's a universal plus to the game. Tiago, Heavy Core made me want to play 18xx games last month. Got my first game at 1846 in, and it's amazing. Won by $12. Awesome. That's the thing. We're not trying to sell you games on the channel. Our job here is to present them and help you make informed decisions. And oh wow, that game looks really good, or oh hey, that is not going to be a good match for me and or my game group. That's pretty much a win. That's the goal of where we're trying to go with all this. So if that's the case, then awesome. Or I guess also by that rationale, what Tiago just said here, that maybe pique your interest in a genre or a type of game that wouldn't normally be in your wheelhouse, or something that you haven't ventured into before. That also is one of the goals of the channel. So awesome to hear. And Ian says, I actually enjoy the management of games without giving it up to the computer. It kind of like people say, like Through the Ages, to where all the fiddly bits are taken care of by the app. I get that, but I also feel a lot less engaged than I do here when I'm at the table with a game. I find my engagement with apps is low. Exactly, right? Board games are much deeper and pull me in much better. That's exactly how I feel as well. That's not to disparage the apps or anybody that enjoys them. It's just not for me. You know what I mean? There's quite the discussion going on about Mr. President. I'm letting you guys handle it. I've said what I need to say on it, I think. Future play of Space Empires. Yup, Vincent. Eventually, yes. And plans for monthly 18xx gameplays. Monthly's probably not going to happen. Could be quarterly, something like that, but I'm not going to commit to anything. I've learned my lesson on that. My suggestion for you, Vincent, would be to watch the soft schedule, the calendar that we have on the website over on heavycardboard.com. Keep an eye out for that. We're trying to stay roughly a month ahead of the streams. Keep in mind, everything is written in sand in that. And in fact, there's a number of the live streams that are either getting moved around or getting replaced with other things. So keep an eye on that and understand that while this is what we would like to do, things can change. So keep that in mind. All right. Have I seen anything on VTOL's On Mars at all? Saw prototypes of it at Essen. Haven't seen more than that. Will I see more? Yes. Have I? No. So can't really say much on that as is. Yeah. Aman asks, Zolkin or Teotihuacan, which do you like better? That's a hard decision. That's a hard call. And when we review Teotihuacan here soon over on the podcast, I'll be able to put a finer point on this. I think Zolkin is more streamlined in a sense that, and I'm not saying develop better, but streamlined because it's less fiddly, right? There's less things to remember, and it flows very smoothly and very quickly. I feel like Teotihuacan, there are a lot more things to remember, but I haven't explored Teotihuacan as much as I have Zolkin, so I feel the urge to play Teotihuacan more than I do for Zolkin, but that's also because I haven't played it as much. So which do I like more? Depends on my mood. That's such a cop-out. That's such a cheating answer, I realize. But yeah, I think that's what we're going to go with. Sorry about that. Not sorry. Golden Elephant Award is announced in late May at HeavyCon. So the finalists will be announced in late April, and we'll go from there. All right. And yes, the website is actually going to be getting overhauled here in the upcoming handful of weeks, month to 2 months. We're handing things off behind the scenes within the small council, so stand by for that. And so, yeah, that's all going to get updated here in the coming weeks. Yep, HeavyCon 5. My goal was January to have that. Obviously, January has come to pass. I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks to be able to have something announced. So as of right now, I don't have anything, but it's happening. It's coming. Memorial Day weekend, just where we don't have the official details yet. Kurt asks, now that it's been a while since you streamed it, what are your thoughts on John Company? Is it a game serious game players need to try? No, there is no game that people need to try. I don't subscribe to that way of thinking, for lack of a better way to put it. Do I enjoy John Company? Yes. However, John Company, for me, now I know Cole, being his game, and he's taught it umpteen million times, he's gotten the teach down to where it is very quick and very painless and very easy. I don't have that luxury, and so it's harder to hit the table because it feels like not relearning it completely, but having to get refreshed with the game so it still feels like I'm fumbling my way through the game because it's a big investment of it's such an odd duck in that how different the game is. So I think that keeps it from hitting the table more often than I would like. I enjoy the game. I'm a really big fan of the game. It was a Golden Elephant Award finalist for a reason. However, it doesn't hit the table a lot. If it's a game that interests you, watch the stream, see if that sounds like something that you would like. That would be my best suggestion, but need to try? No. And I think Cole would 100% agree with me on that. But if it looks interesting, sounds interesting, then yeah, try and pick up a copy. All right. Yeah, Eric, on the PAX Unplugged Deep Cuts podcast, someone was talking about conspiracy. That was Andy. Oh, lost my space. Hold on. Can't remember if I had anything to say about it at the time. Restoration Games announced they're going to be remaking it. Any thoughts? No, I'm excited for it. I'll finally get a chance to play it. I've yet to play it. We didn't get a chance to play it a few years ago when Cole brought it to BGG Con, so didn't get a chance to try it yet, but looking forward to it. And as much as these guys rave about it, I'm excited to try it. I just haven't had a chance yet. Spirit Island, 4-player, Ian asks, that will have you thinking, easy rules, taxing to figure out, a co-op. What about something like this? That is entirely possible that Spirit Island you may see in the coming months. Brant Sanderson, who lives down in Connecticut, has a copy and has offered to come up and wants to teach it. And I told him that that's a distinct possibility in the coming months. So maybe. That's what I will say on that. All right. Undefined asks, for 18 Lilliput, are you going to be doing any of the scenarios or any other variants? No. For the first live stream, I imagine that we are going to stream 18 Lilliput more than once. Obviously not this week. We're only streaming it once. But I think in subsequent months, I think we are going to probably stream it again if folks want to see that. We're going to start off with just the base game, which is normally how we do any game that has variants or anything like that. Not always, but usually. So we're going to do the base game with it, and then possibly if folks want us to stream it again, then we will stream it with some of the variants on a future stream. But look for that on Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to that. And yes, Rob, Sekigahara is an excellent 2-player game. I am really excited to be able to bring that to folks. So get us PTZ cams. Well, I appreciate that new board order. He says, I really appreciate or I really enjoy when you find in live stream newer games not in the hotness. For example, Pleasant Journey to Neko, which I now have a copy of. Thanks for that. Awesome. Medium, heavy, war games, 18XX, train games in general, and obscure stuff. That's kind of what we do. So I'm glad to hear that we're hitting the mark there. Thank you for that. Oh, others from Essen to come? Oh, I'm looking at the shelf back there. There's a number of games back there that still have not been streamed. Some more popular than others, stuff like Wendake, Blackout Hong Kong, Pandoria. Looking. And then some of the more obscure stuff, and this is going to have to wait until we get a PTZ camera because it's a block war game, but 1918 Death on the Rails. Possibly Kingdom Defenders. And others. There's some others over there, but that's enough. That gives you the idea, all right? So, oh, cool. And Brian says, I have a copy now, too. Thanks to watching the stream. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that it turned you on to the game, guys. Good. Oh, and Ren says the same reason he picked up Peep Mats. Yes. All right. Hi, Simon. James asks, I'd like to know if there's any plan to stream any abstracts. Think the GIF series, the GIPF series. I would love to. I don't have any of them, but I would love to be able to do that. Those would be perfect for lunchtime with heavy cardboard. I know you did Aten recently, which is technically an abstract, but I'm thinking no theme at all. I totally would be down for that. I am not opposed to that at all. If I get a copy of them, then yes, I obviously want to try them first before I commit to any live streams. But yeah, I am not opposed to abstracts at all. And in fact, I'm looking for it, but I don't think it's in here. And I can't think of the name. It's a bunch of games all in one box. Pyramid something or other. It has one or two in that box that I would like to show off. My only concern is with the little kind of translucent pyramids, how they would show with an overhead camera. I don't know about that, so I don't want to commit to that. But if it would show well, then I would like to do those as well. And I'm sure there are a whole bunch that I'm not thinking of, that I can't think of off the top of my head, that I would like to stream as well, lunchtime or otherwise. So yeah, there's that. Yes, thank you, Jared. If you guys are enjoying this, like and subscribe down below. Thank you. TT says, luckily you're not trying to sell me games. I'd be broke in a few months. All we do is present them, all right? And then on the reviews over on the podcast, I mean, 2 episodes ago, we reviewed Through the Ages, which is my highest ranked game. The last time I did my top 50 of all time of right now. It was my #1 game. And I think we took it to task and we dressed it down enough to highlight I don't want to call it warts, but the negative side of Through the Ages as well, to be able to give a fair, thorough, balanced, and honest review of the game. And so I think we do a pretty good job of that over on the reviews as well. Obviously, we give ratings on that, and on all the non-sponsored live streams, we do roundtable discussions to give our feedback on those. So, I mean, go back and watch the stream of Newton and watch our roundtable on that. And I think that shows that we do a very good job of being fair and honest and pretty thorough with those as well. So yeah, good. I'm glad to hear it. Thanks, Corey. Thanks for that. Welcome back, Tony. Take care, Michael. Brian says, not trying to sell me on the games, but watching the fun they have playing makes me want to purchase. Know this, and I think everybody that's watching this knows, we're not hamming it up for the cameras. This is us. This is how we are. The only difference between how we are on camera and how we are off camera is we don't use the Glory to Rome board when we're not on camera. I think is a good PC way of saying that. Other than that, it's exactly how you see. That's it. So I know you guys know that, but yeah, it's just, if we're having a good time, even if we're not laughing, but you can tell we're having a good time, it's genuine. Nobody here is the only thing that like pre-stream discussion that we have about the streams is if we know it's going to be a longer stream and we know it's going to be a longer game, the one thing that I tell folks is remember to keep it moving. That's it. try not to AP too much, and keep things moving because we know it's going to be long enough as is. Other than that, there's no strategy discussion. There's no setting things up. You do this strategy, you do this. Nope, there's none of that. People play how they want to play. And there's no, oh, hey, make sure it looks fun. Nope, none of that. You know what? There have been streams where people obviously are not having the best time, but I think that does a service to y'all watching, in a sense that you guys get a real feel for what it's like to play this game from different points of view. And that's why I think doing it multiplayer the way we do it is such a valuable tool and resource for y'all. At least that's my goal. And so obviously it's coming through. So good. I'm really glad to hear that. Tony, you know Zolkin's the better game other than better than Teotihuacan, and you know it. I'm not saying that. Yes, Jim, HeavyCon 5, I guess it would be, will be in Boston, in the Boston area. Not necessarily in Boston, but in the Boston area this year, yes. There's a reason I highlight the chat so that I can scroll back and see where I lost my place on. Don't breathe and swallow at the same time. My apologies. All right. With Nail, I confess that I have a soft spot for the occasional Ameritrash game. Do you ever play any of those, or are you completely opposed to it? Forbidden Stars is a hybrid Ameritrash / Euro, and a really damn good game, and we streamed that. So I'm not opposed to it at all. I think that I think hybrid games are more likely to be shown on heavy cardboard than a straight Ameritrash, like Arkham Horror, like the base Arkham Horror or Mansions of Madness, something like that. Probably not likely to be shown on the channel, but something like, and we've done a number of these now that I think about it. So Forbidden Stars was one. I think Mezzo could be considered another hybrid because it's got the big miniatures. And then also we did Rising Sun, which also could be considered a hybrid with the miniatures and all that. So yeah, we've done a number of them, and I think those will make the occasional appearance going forward, but emphasis on the occasional part. Not really our cup of tea normally, but there are exceptions, and there's some that we want to highlight. So there you go. Have I heard anything about BIOS Megafauna 3rd edition? I'd have to go back and read my emails from Ion Game Design to find out about that, but I know BIOS Origins and but I don't know, and I'm trying to remember. I'm not being coy. I'm trying to remember if there's been anything about a 3rd edition. I don't think so, but don't quote me on that, okay? I don't think so, though. Oh, did somebody mention Aegis theme? Yeah, there's going to be more coming either later in February or in March. So more Aegis theme coming, I promise. Yeah, and when I heard in chat people talking about queuing, i.e. waiting in line, Koleka, I think is how you say it, the game about waiting in line, I am desperate to stream that game. I would love to show that game off. So look for that in the coming months too. James asks, are there any games like Great Western Trail that you feel like have more depth than you can see in only 4 or 5 plays that you would explore more and possibly rate higher if you could get more plays in? I guarantee there are some games. And so I mentioned this on the podcast of our really in-depth dive into Great Western Trail and the expansion. And if you guys haven't listened to that over on heavycardboard.com or your favorite podcast play app, really highly recommend that. I'm not saying it's our best episode because I feel like that's doing a disservice to the other 125 that we've done, but it was a really damn good episode. So it's long, no arguments, but I think it's really good. That said, I discussed that before we review games, I have a minimum of 4 or 5 plays of a game before I'm willing to review it, because I want to not give just such total superficial feel to the game. I'm not saying there isn't merit to a review after 1 or 2 plays, but especially with the heavier games, or hell, even a lot of the medium weight games that we review and that we feature, there's a lot of hidden depth in a lot of these games, and it's hard to explore it after a game or two, so you can't really give an educated opinion about that depth. Not saying you can about the games themselves, but about the depth of the game. And so I wondered aloud, how many other games after 4 or 5 plays that we've reviewed have that depth that I wasn't even aware of, possibly, or that I wasn't seeing, even if I was aware of it. And are we doing a disservice to those games because we were only playing them 4 or 5 times before we review them? But let's face it, I would argue that the majority of reviewers out there aren't playing a game that many times, or more than that, for sure. There might be exceptions, obviously. But so I don't think doing more plays of it is going to be a realistic goal. But are there any games out there that I would feel differently about if I played them more? I have a feeling that would be the case. Take a game like Tigris and Euphrates, old school, right? I think that is a game, or heck, most war games, or definitely all the 18xx games, because I'm not able to play these enough to be able to dive deep into those. I think a game like Tigris and Euphrates, you can see the depth there, but I'm never going to get really good at the game because I'm not going to dedicate the amount of time that getting good to it or at it would require, but I can see it at least. And I can see that in an 18xx title, like in 1817, which I know there are groups that have played that game hundreds of times. It's just never going to happen here. So, do I think there are games out there that I would feel differently about if I played them more? I think that's a reasonable expectation of a lot of games. Not all. I would argue that most might not feel that way, but there are definitely a chunk that would feel that way. I don't think I'd feel differently on something like Lorenzo Il Magnifico, Newton, which I realize that's the same designer. Yeah, I'm sure. I bet you I would have feelings that would go both ways, that I would enjoy a game more than I have, or that I would enjoy a game less than I have based on more plays. I think that would just be natural, and I think that would be to be expected, but I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do that on the show. Are you planning to play Donning the Purple sometime? Aziwa asks. Aziwa, I would recommend that you head over to heavycardboard.com, scroll down, look at the calendar, and that'll answer your question. Look for that in a few weeks. Is there any game aside from 18 Lilliput that you've now streamed once with a teach that you're looking forward to streaming again? Haven't streamed 18 Lilliput yet. Tony asked that. Okay. Is there a game I've streamed once with a teach that you're looking forward to streaming again? I'm sure the answer is yes. Definitely some of the games from the basement. Any game that I have streamed where I didn't have my teaching notes, those tend to be rougher, I think, because I don't have my teaching script, my teaching notes set up, and I'm not. Even when I have my teaching script, I've noticed that Richard Bree's games, for some reason, I struggle teaching. So God bless Paul Grogan for doing his edited rules teaches of those. Take Keyflow. I hated my teach on that one. It's not a heavy game. It's not a hard game. Yet even Paul's video was like 18, 19 minutes. It's just, there's a lot of rules. There's a lot of stuff there. So yeah, I don't know why I struggle with that. But as far as the game itself, I think believe it or not, even though I'm not in love with the game, I think doing a solo of Space Corp, I think that'd make for a pretty good stream. What do y'all think? I think changing up player count on some of the games would make for interesting streams. And there's nothing else off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are other games that I would like to, or like new editions of the game. Like, I'm terrible about game names, and I can't think of it. The Spielworks game that is getting reprinted about space a couple years ago. Total blank on the name. That is getting reprinted in a new edition. I would like to restream that one. I think that would be good. But anyway, you get the point. Yes, there are some out there, Tony. James says, I think we need an updated review and playthrough of your Volk. It's well liked in the herd and has maintained its niche popularity over time. I think we could do that. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Tristan. He says, as a side point, I feel like the level of useful critique in the roundtables after playthroughs has increased recently. Mission accomplished. They are trying to be a little bit more pointed and a little bit more organized and a little bit more not discerning. That's no, because I feel like the roundtables that we've done in the past were solid as well, but I do feel like they have kind of stepped up recently as well. And I think that's a credit to the other folks that have been on the stream. So yeah, I think it's a good trend that I'm seeing as well. So looking forward to that. Take care, Rob. Go back, Board Game Trucker. I haven't seen the game, haven't played it, and I mentioned as much. Sorry about that. Eric asks, have you released the most anticipated list of 2019? I have not. That's going to be coming. Have you talked about one or two that come to mind? Well, Thomas asks, what's my most anticipated game of 2019? And so, see, I can answer that because I actually was able to go back and read it. Like, I can't do it off the top of my head. This is not a complete list. Let me go ahead and say that. My number one most anticipated game of 2019, which all of a sudden I feel like is a landmine that I mentioned, but Mr. President, it has been my most anticipated game for the last 2 years. That game needs to come out so I can stop anticipating and start playing it. So there's that. And then others that I'm also excited about in no particular order. Brazil, City of the Big Shoulders, PAX Premier 2.0, and Stellar Horizons. Even if I heard that it's a big dice fest, I'm still looking forward to trying that myself and getting my own opinion of that. So there are others, but those are a handful. City of the Big Shoulders. I know the game. I've played it a number of times. Still looking forward to that. PAX Premier 2.0. I've played that a number of times. Cannot wait. That is going to be the most approachable and easiest entry into the PAX series to date, and I am really excited about that. Plus, it's a beautiful presentation. Looking forward to that. Brazil, if we ever see it, Nuno, Paulo, Mariano, Veronica. And Stellar Horizons, the big space game from Compass Games that I actually interviewed the designer and aerospace engineer designer who works for SpaceX, the guy behind it, Andrew Rader. So go check out my conversations with Heavy Cardboard with him about that game and about just other stuff in general. So those are a handful of the games I'm looking forward to in 2019. That's awesome. Um, uh, there's a question. I haven't managed to try Donning the Purple yet. We're going to be streaming it in, I think it's 2 weeks. I think. So take a look, heavycardboard.com, look at the calendar, and it's scheduled on there tentatively, but I think it's pretty much set that, yes, that's the day we're going to be doing it. Brian asks, I can honestly say that you've watched too many. I disagree. The right amount of Heavy Cardboard videos when you say glory to Rome in your own game because someone took your move. I think it's a very, very polite way of saying go fornicate with yourself for having taken what I want to do. I think, no, I think that you've watched the right amount of streams. Brian? Rum and Bones. I've never played it. I can't tell you, James. Sorry. Endeavor, Age of Sail is pretty Ameritrashy. Really? And I see that as really Euro-y, Tony. But Endeavor is going to be coming. It's actually up for the patron vote right now. And spoiler, not doing well. Panamax in a landslide so far in the patron vote for the patron voted game, which this month's is 18 Lilliput, which will be on Friday. And next month's, right now, Panamax crushing in that vote. Have not tried Barony, TT. Eric, any stories worth sharing about Boston after the Pats Super Bowl win? Heard fireworks go off? Yesterday was the parade in downtown Boston. I am in the northwest-ish adjacency, so suburbs, sort of, kind of, bedroom community, however you want to put it. I'm 25 minutes from the heart of Boston and saw a lot of people coming back from the parade, all decked out. Excuse me, all decked out in Patriots gear. But that's it. Here's what I do know. It's baseball season. Pitchers and catchers report in 6 days. Can't wait. Martine, we're going to go with hybrid. Have you considered streaming Fife or Fife? Is it Fife? I think it's Fife. Or any other diplomatic games? Yes, we have. We've actually we have streamed. I don't know if it's really diplomatic. John Company, you could make a case for, or a Sidereal Confluence we've streamed. But yes, Fife is it's in the collection, and I will say eventually. How's that? Welcome, Morton. Nice. Morton is currently punching Pass of Glory, or he punched it. Now he's corner cutting Pass of Glory while listening to the Ask the Elephant. So hello, welcome, Morton. Hey, Reynald, you should go back and listen to one of my the very first question that I posed in this, seeing as it was about you and your mom. He says, "Hi, Edward. Consider your past of being a professional poker player. With all the betting and auction games and stuff, what games give you the closest feeling to poker somehow? Is Brass the winner of 2018? Best regards." Is Brass, meaning Brass Birmingham, I assume you mean, and you'll find out that at the end of May when we announce the Golden Elephant Award. What game gives the closest feel to poker? None. Poker is its own animal. However, there is, I think the best way to approach that question would be what game best feels like a true competition of decision making and manipulating your opponents into making decisions that are bad for them, good for you. This is where I struggle for these on the spot, think of a game questions. I can't come up with one off the top of my head, but I'm going to write that down. Got my USMC for my Marine Corps birthday pen here for notes. Speaking of gifts, wanted to give a shout out to one of the folks in the herd, Aaron. Sent me a really, really thoughtful package yesterday, or I should say it arrived. And in it were two things. One, it was a pretty cool deck of cards. It's not like a poker, like a traditional deck of cards. It was affirmators or affirminators or something like. They're affirmations. They're, hey, when you're struggling, having a rough day or whatever, scramble up the cards and pick one and read it and do whatever it says, or read it and just try and help it put you in a better mindset. So thank you for that. And the other thing that he sent was something that I'm going to dive into starting tonight that I am really, really excited about. Folks that are close to me, and actually the patrons have heard about this during the patron-only Ask the Elephants, that I struggle from time to time, just like any other person that puts their stuff out there in the public. You struggle with dealing with having put yourself out there, I think is a good way to put it. That said, some days are easier than others. And for the most part, I do a pretty good job of dealing with it. At times, I let feedback get to me. And so Aaron sent me a book, and he says he has found many uses and good advice in this book. It is the subject, the subtle art of not giving a bleep, and a counterintuitive approach to living a good life by Mark Manson. I'm going to start reading this tonight. I'm really excited about that. So Aaron, thank you, dude. That really meant a lot. I really appreciate it. So that's it. Solarius Mission. Yes, E. That was the game that I couldn't think of the title. I think I kept wanting to say the Deluvia Project, but I knew that was wrong, but I couldn't get it out of my head. So yes, that is an example of a game where a second edition's coming, so I want to show off the second edition of it. There you go. Reynold, will a playthrough of Arkwright in which I take part coming this year? Honestly, I hadn't thought about it, but maybe we could do a different player count. So maybe? Okay, Tony says, no, it wasn't Endeavor. He was getting it confused with Merchants and Marauders. It's okay. Trust me. Thinking of a game on the spot is really tough for me, so I can appreciate that. You know what, James? I think we could do that. James says, if you play Aegis Theme Westeros map, that could count as a Ameritrash. Dude, I dig that, and I would love to be able to do that. We might could do that. You know, I'm just saying, when we come out to visit you for your patron winning Heavy Cardboard Game Day around the world, I think we need to play that while we're there. Ooh, here we go. Undefined asks, so some reprints or new editions that are either planned or announced for, say, 2019, 2020. 1862, Automobile, Big City, Democker, and Pret-a-Porter. Any plans to stream those ahead of the new release? Automobile keeps losing the patron-only vote. I love that game. I really want that game to win. I can't force 729 people to vote that way. That said, as soon as that wins, yes. Big City, yeah, I think that would be cool. And Mercury Games, I imagine, would send us a copy. Democker is guaranteed going to happen. That's going to have 2 streams this year. I want to do the second edition, but with a hybrid of the second and third edition rules. It's kind of a bastardization the way we play it, but that's how I'm going to stream it, as well as the new edition. And Pret-a-Porter, I think it would be awesome to shine a light on the old version of the game, which is the one I have. However, I have to write a teaching script for that, and I am not looking forward to that because that is one of the worst rule books in history. And Ignacy would say as much. So yes to a lot of those. All right? Undefined? And Patrick, he's like, heck yeah for baseball and Yankees World Champions 2019. Dude. I'm not saying my Reds are playoff bound, but I'm awfully damn excited about this offseason. And you know what? Hope springs eternal in spring training. And we might be a colossal failure, but all you can ask for as a baseball fan that isn't one of the perennial superpowers of baseball, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, etc. If you're a small market team fan, all you can hope for is to have some hope going into the year. And I have hope. And I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about that. That's all I want. You can dog me, you can slam me for being a Reds fan, but we haven't won the series since 1990. I just want hope, and I have some this year. So allow me to enjoy it, okay? I don't think that's the right type of Marine, Tony. He says, considering your military service background, how much are you looking forward to Dominant Species Marine? I'm looking forward to Dominant Species Marine because I'm a big Dominant Species fan. I cannot wait to check that game out. Really excited about it. Alex, this is a really excellent question. What excites you more? A mainstream game with strong mechanisms or a highly obscure game with rudimentary, say, roll and move mechanisms? Neither, I think, is the answer, but I'll expand on that. So a mainstream game, meaning like, you know, something that's going to be in Target or something, or Barnes & Noble or something like that, with strong mechanisms, or an obscure game with rudimentary mechanisms. So let's look at a game like Airship City. It has one really, really cool mechanism. The being able to conveyor columns in rows for the worker placement or the action selection locations. I think that is fantastic. The rest of the game is pretty blasé. But that one mechanism is really cool. And the reason that got the buzz that it got is because it's from Analog Lunchbox, which is a pretty obscure Japanese publisher. At least in my opinion, that's why. If that were an American publisher, if that were to come out from, I don't know, talk mainstream hobby publishers, Stronghold or Renegade or Asmodee something, I don't think that game would have been, and by me, and I'm guilty of this, I don't think that game would have been as anticipated had it been from somebody else. But because it's a more obscure title and more obscure publisher, that's why that game is a notch higher in anticipation. And I think that mechanism turned out really, really well done, or done really well. But the game itself was okay. But that one mechanism was great. Whereas if a game has really cool mechanisms and it's from a more mainstream, then I think that is more exciting to me. So I shouldn't say neither. I would say the first one. I'm okay with a more mainstream game if it has a really, really good set of mechanisms within the game. So yeah, I think that trumps more than it being hipster, right? Being more obscure, being more whatever. So I would say I would lean more towards the former, if either. I'm kind of learning that obscure doesn't necessarily mean better. It just means obscure, but it does also give me the show gives me the platform to be able to highlight some of these, because there are some really good ones out there. There are some that aren't as good, but I think Airship City was a good game, but it wasn't you know what I mean? As an example, I realize I'm on that one, but you get the idea. And I think the artwork in Crossroads of Heroes was fantastic, but I think the gameplay was lacking, which was a huge disappointment for me. So it happens, right? Vince, plans to stream second edition of Ground Floor. You should go look at the calendar. Uh-huh. What war games are in the future? I mentioned this earlier, James. I don't have the list off the top of my head, but I mentioned a couple: Washington's War, Hannibal, and there are some others that are coming, but I couldn't think of the titles off the top of my head. I will try and answer that either on, if somebody asks me on social media, like on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, or in Slack for the patrons. Do you feel like those are harder to get on the show because the counters blocks are harder to stream, or because of the massive rules overhead? Glad you asked this. So the block war games aren't happening until we get PTZ cameras, because there's no way in overhead looking at no information on the top of the blocks. That's not interesting. That doesn't show well. So I'm waiting until I get a PTZ camera back here, which will be the second PTZ camera. So patrons are going to help with that, or would-be patrons are the ones that are going to have to help with that. So it's not that, and it's not counters don't show. It is the investment of time and effort, not just by me, but also the other player or players that would have the game to the table. Take, for instance, a coin game, okay? A multiplayer, meaning not, or let's say a 4-player coin game. Let's say Andean Abyss, okay? If we were to stream Andean Abyss, we would have to get the 4 of us, because I'm not playing with a bot on the stream. I would want to play it 4-player on a stream. That said, that is 4 entire game days that have to be dedicated to that game, or multiple game days that would have to be dedicated just to that one game, and have to coordinate to where the same players could all participate in that game. Being able to coordinate that and then coordinate it for a stream is a lot more logistically difficult than I think. Well, I mean, if for those of you that have more than 4 people in your game group, I think you can appreciate how difficult that can be with schedules, people having kids, etc., etc. So that is the biggest impediment. Same thing goes with train games or with 18xx games. That is the biggest impediment. Are they coming? Yes. So yeah, that's the biggest impediment to it. And sorry, Vince, I can't take Automobile out of the poll and stream it. It's not how this works. Patrons vote it. I can't do that. Once it's in there, I'm not going to arbitrarily just pull it out. I'm not. Sorry. Actually, that's not a bad idea. He suggests also increasing the poll from 5 to 10 games, make it less likely one game crushes the other 4. There's merit to that. I think that's fair. Reynal, who the story about his mom was earlier, said, "My mother always blushes when I tell you mentioned her." Now that Food Chain expansion has been announced, I think it's time to tell us about your game with Jeroen. I already did that earlier in this, today. Yeah, how bad he smoked us. Yes. Chad says, I saw that the Players Association wants the DH added to the NL. It's a matter of time. Chad says when they do that, I'm done with the sport. It's an inherent advantage for the AL. I hear you. But honestly, I get it, and I've always been anti-DH, but I think I'm starting to come around on it. So it's an eventuality. It's going to happen. Just it happens when it happens. Michael is a Brewers fan. I wish you luck in your Brewers luck. I hope they take second place this year behind my Reds. And I hope the Cubs finish 12th. And I hope the Cardinals finish 11th in the division. Loki says, as a White Sox fan, I can feel you about hope. Can't wait for the warmth, the crack of the bat, and the best words in English dictionary. Play ball. I'm not saying they're the best words, but I feel you. I really do. And Adam, I'm going to overlook that you're a Cardinals fan, okay? Dutch Yoda asks, any updates about Hinkelstein? I can legitimately say that it's being investigated by a certain publisher, and that the manufacturing costs are the only real impediment to that game. I'm trying, though. I promise you I'm trying still, okay? Morton says, still plenty of counters to clip, so I'm going to keep talking to you, or keep you talking. Will the Golden Elephant selections be easier or harder than it was in 17 or 16? My impression of 18 was that it took a small downturn compared to 17 or 16. I don't feel that... I don't think 2018 was the strongest year that we've had for the heavier side of the hobby, but I don't think it was a bad year. I just don't think it was exceptionally strong or a stellar, like a hallmark year. Is it going to be more difficult? I feel like 2017 was probably the hardest year we've ever had trying to decide the Golden Elephant Award. And I have a feeling that this year is going to be closer to 2017's decision than it was any of the previous. I think it's going to be a tough decision because it has not been decided yet. We haven't played all the games, so how could it? We haven't even decided on the finalists. Yes, Trucker, go back, listen. Reynolds asking, with Roads and Boats coming back and the Food Chain Magnate expansion, he would love for me to sit down with Joris and Jeroen again, as well as Vital. That could happen. I could see another conversations with Heavy Cardboard later on this year, or possibly in 2020, to be able to give space in between those. I really want to get back to doing those as well. So I hear you. Eric says, I was gonna talk trash about the Reds, but after the heartwarming speech about hope, I just can't. Keep your false hope, Edward. Hey. Anything on Kickstarter catch my eye? Get a chance to try the new Jasper table. Nope. I have not tried the Jasper table, and I'll be honest, Undefined, I haven't looked a whole lot at Kickstarter. I've been so focused on the show. I haven't looked a whole lot. I know there are a number of games that have recently hit, one of which you're going to see on the stream tomorrow, which is Race for the Chinese Zodiac. I wanted to touch base on that. So, yes, that's a sponsor playthrough. We have not had a sponsor playthrough on the show since December? It's been a couple of months, hasn't it? So the goal on that is to limit it to about 2 a month. And the whole reason we do it is because we want folks to be able to make informed decisions. And a lot of people are really enjoying those. Why this one in particular? One, it's Capstone Games, so you guys know the deal there. But with Capstone Games, in this game in particular, Race for the Chinese Zodiac, the designers, Christina, and I call him Youster. That's his BGG username, but the designer couple, as well as original publisher, they're the designers of Three Kingdoms Redux and the original publishers of those games. A couple of the kindest, most just sweet people I've ever met, even though we've never met in person. And Three Kingdoms Redux has a very, very special place in my heart because it's the first review copy that anyone ever sent us. And so, honestly, I would stream this game no matter what, because I feel like they have earned the benefit of the doubt with such a good game that Three Kingdoms Redux was, that I really want to show off Race for the Chinese Zodiac. Even though it's in the Simply Complex line, which means it's not going to be as heavy as something like a Pipeline or Arkwright, or it's not even going to be anywhere near those realms. But sentimental reasons, as well as, honestly, they've earned the benefit of the doubt, and I feel pretty strong that Clay has earned the benefit of the doubt. So that's why we're streaming it tomorrow. Look for that. Looking forward to that tomorrow at 7. So that said, let me go ahead and get back to some of the other patron questions here. Lorcan asks, with the new Game of the Month content, are you planning to make any changes to the medium for various bits of content between YouTube and the podcast? This may tie into previous discussions around a content strategy. Any updates on that? Well, one thing is, you guys saw on Thursday, we're going to be releasing the first impression of Space Corp over on the podcast. So there is going to be some crossover between the two. Obviously not live streams on the podcast because common sense, but and it's going to be an evolving thing like Reef Encounter. I'm not going to really do an unboxing. I'm going to do a setup video, and I'm not going to do a first impression, but I might do some other similar video for that. We'll see on that, just because of the fact that it's an older game. So it's going to be tailored more towards the game than a set format. But yeah, so there's definitely going to be, it's going to be a living, breathing thing in that it's going to evolve as we go along. Navaneeth says, earlier in your heavy cardboard career, when there weren't enough patrons to supplement for income, how many times did you feel like giving up or thought that it isn't working out, and what got you through it? With so many content creators these days, and with most people having short attention spans, you've been successful in bringing together a strong following. We all follow many content creators, but what do you think makes Heavy Cardboard feel more like a community? At least for me, all the other channels I follow don't quite feel the same. While I still like their content, it doesn't feel like a community. All right, wow. That's a lot to take in and a lot to tackle. So we'll take them one at a time. So how many times did I feel like giving up previously, and what got me through it before Heavy Cardboard was my career? It definitely has had it's been a mixed bag. This summer, let me back up. Beforehand, never really considered quitting it because I never intended on Heavy Cardboard being my career. It just so happened that at a certain point I realized, maybe I can make a go of this. And so I tried, and I made a concerted effort to do that. And here we are. Thanks to our patrons and the sponsored playthroughs, I'm able to do so. So I'm very grateful for that. But so never really beforehand did I ever really consider quitting the show. And there have only been 3 individual days, specific days, that I have considered quitting the show. And I say considered, but the thought I've never seriously considered it, but I have questioned whether or not it's worth it. There have been 3 days. Outside of those 3 days, no. I hope it's been coming through for the last handful of months that I'm excited. I'm invigorated. I am stoked. I am excited about 2019. So this is going on for the long haul. This ain't going anywhere. So I'm really, really excited about this. He mentioned that folks having shorter attention spans, and which I find somewhat true, just as a society in general. And I think it's fascinating because, let's face it, we have the longest live streams and the longest videos by a magnitude, more so than anyone else out there. And so what sets us apart? I think it's the fact that the teaching followed by a full playthrough of these heavier, mid, medium, and heavy, and etc. games, I think it warrants it, and people seem to really be enjoying it. So I'm grateful for that. We're going to start cutting out the videos in a sense that there's going to be 4 videos. There's going to be the full video like there normally is, the full live stream once YouTube's done processing the live stream, then you're going to have the whole kit and caboodle, the 2.5 to 6 hours, depending on how long the stream is. But out of that, I'm also, in addition to having the whole video, you're going to have a separated teach, a separated playthrough, and a separated roundtable where appropriate. So we're going to start doing more of that. So look for that. So if you, this way, oh, hey, go watch the teach of Arkwright, and somebody sees it's a 4+ hour video, they're like, whoa. No, now you can just send them a link to the full teach and be like, here, go watch the teach. And it's still, an hour long. I get that. Some of these bigger games have more extensive teaches. That said, it's less intimidating when they look at the time length and they're like, oh my God, what? No, it's not. So now it's like, oh, it's a 35, 40-minute teach. Okay, I can throw that on in the background while I'm, sitting, clipping counters or whatever and learn this game. Okay, that I can do. So to try and help it make it less intimidating, we're going to start doing that, as well as going back into the back catalog and cutting out those as well. It's going to be a slow process, but that's coming. To answer your other question as to what makes Heavy Cardboard feel more like a community than others, well, I think a few things play into that. First and foremost, we were, if not the first, we were, I think of all the, I don't want to say major channels because that sounds classist and elitist, and that's not at all what I'm trying to get after. But I feel like there are bigger channels out there with obviously Dice Tower, Rahdo, Shut Up and Sit Down, and others that dwarf some of us smaller folk like Heavy Cardboard. And then, there are other content creators that do some sort of crowdfunding, right? Moving on to Oolong now. We were, if not the first, we were the first of the bigger channels, for lack of a better way to put it. You guys know what I mean. We were the first to go to Patreon as opposed to doing Kickstarter. Patreon has its perks and it has its downsides, I guess is a good way to put it. The first thing is the perks. Heavy Cardboard always has been a community-driven entity. And I feel like because of me, I think this has been a more community-driven thing. And let me explain that. I'm very much a more emotional person than not. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Anybody that knows me knows this is the fact. And if you ask the patrons, they also know this, that you know more about me as a person than you know about Tom, or you know about Richard, or you know about John, or you know about the Shut Up and Sit Down crew, or about Efka and Elaine, or any of the content creators that are out there. You guys know far more about me as a person and about my life, my real life, than you do anyone else. And for better or for worse, I feel like that has formed a stronger bond between me and the audience. Be it here on YouTube, be it over on the podcast, because the podcast lived far before the YouTube channel. 2.5 years, 2 years, something like that. Yeah, 2.5 years, I think, the podcast lived before the YouTube channel ever became a thing. And so I feel like that bond between us, because of the way I am. Also, the fact that Patreon promotes it being more of a community-based thing than Kickstarter. Kickstarter is more or less a store, right? I mean, if you go there, you go and you back a content creator and you expect something in return. Whether it's promos, whether it's games, whether it's whatever it is. On Patreon, sure, there's some of that. But something that I have learned is the overwhelming majority, this is not a carte blanche statement, but the overwhelming majority of people that choose to support Heavy Cardboard, and by an extension of that, support me, of the 729, the overwhelming majority want to support the show because they want to support the show, or they like me and they want to support me. And I feel like that is, and this is anecdotal. I don't have any hard, fast numbers on this. So maybe I'm just talking out of my ass and I don't know what I'm talking about. But it feels like that is more of a case on Patreon than it is on campaigns of this is going to run for 2, 3, 4 weeks, however long it's going to be, and that being the case. And then after that, you know, you don't really have any kind of engagement with the creator past that point. And I'm not begrudging and I'm not judging. I'm not saying what anybody chooses to do is wrong. I'm not saying that. You do you. But I'm saying for me and for the direction that I have wanted the show to go from the word go, I feel like this is the direction that suits me. And the reason for that is this is me. The person that you guys see on camera, I cuss a whole lot more in person than I do on this show. But outside of that, this is me. This is the real me. I'm not putting on a facade, and I'm not saying intimating that others do. But what I'm saying is this is Edward. And me talking about some of the personal stuff that I have gone through or that's going on in my life, be it poker stuff that I mentioned on the show, or whether it be other personal things that are going on. And obviously, this is much more centric to an Ask the Elephant as well as on the podcast than it is on the live streams, because the live streams, they're all about focused on the game, right? I don't know how to be a persona. I don't know how to be an act. I don't know how to be anything other than this. I self-edit, try not to cuss, and to some degree, I'm self-editing a little bit more on my personal side of things after what I went through over the last year and some of the attacks that I had to withstand because of that. So I've become a little bit more reserved, but outside of that, this is me. And I don't want to have to be, oh, hey, it's on camera, Edward. Nah, that's not me. It's just not. This is me. Take it or leave it. If you don't like it, then okay. But if you do, this is me. I am the same guy. Anybody that's met me at a convention or plays games with me will tell you, this is how I am. Arguably, I'm more emotional off stream than I am on, but you get the point. And so I feel like that all those things tied into one, and I'm accessible, whether it's on the guild on BGG, which I've tried to rekindle, whether it's on Slack for the patrons, whether it's doing these and making sure I answer every single question that gets asked me. More often than not, if I miss some, I apologize. It's not from lack of effort, but the fact that I feel like there's a better connection, and I feel the connection on my end with you guys, that I feel like that's why it feels like more of a community, and that engagement that Heavy Cardboard's pretty all-encompassing in my life. I take the occasional half day or day away here or there, but 24/7, 365 with the occasional break, but even not often then, this is my life. And so engaging with y'all it's something I want to do as much as it seems a lot, not everybody. A lot of people are like, dude, just shut up, show me the game, tell me about it, we're good. And that's okay. But for those that want that kind of connection, that's what it's here for. And I want it as much as they do. And so I feel like that's where that connection comes in, because folks see it's genuine because this is me. Take it or leave it. And so I think that's why the community is as it is. And that very much has its pluses and minuses for me, because Patreon requires me to manage 729 people 365 days out of the year. Kickstarter would, like, if you look at the Dice Tower Kickstarter that's going on right now, they have 6,100 last some odd. That's unbelievable. No, it's believable. It's just incredible. That's amazing. Well done, guys. They don't have to manage the community outside of the Kickstarter, right? So they don't have to do those things if they choose not to. It's not saying they don't. You know what I'm saying. I'm just saying they don't have to. I do, but I also want to. And I think that want to is one of the things that helps the community as well. It's satisfying to me, but it also is taxing to me as well. It takes its toll at times because the internet is the internet sometimes. And yeah, so there you go. So hopefully that's a really, really long way to explain why I feel that the community is as it is for Heavy Cardboard. I'm not saying this is why it's better or just this is why it is, in my opinion. Y'all can give me your opinions on that as well. So that said, that's awesome. So Dave. Cheers, Dave. Welcome. Appreciate the support, man. Thank you. All right, moving on. Clay asks, you can only have one in your collection. Time of Crisis, Churchill, or Space Corp? You're a monster, dude. You put a gun to my head between those? Time of Crisis. Plus, it has the expansion coming, so I'm excited about that. But Time of Crisis probably, although I really, really enjoy Churchill as well. Space Corp is not a bad game. But Time of Crisis. There you go. All right, so let me get back to the chat now here. Oh, on that note, Ray asks, how you been doing emotionally, brother? I appreciate that, Ray. Doing pretty good. I'm excited. I'm in a good place. I'm hoping to continue on an upward trend. I'll be honest with you, Ray, and everyone else. I don't know what I could be doing better on the show. I am really proud of the content of the show the last few months. I really am. I'm really excited. I'm really happy about it. I go to sleep smiling because of it. I feel good about it. I hope you guys do as well. Oh, Patrick says he has the Jasper table and it's amazing. Well, there you go. Awesome. Matt asks, have I seen any of Jeff Engelstein's tweets about his Versailles 1919 game he's designing for GMT? I saw some last night, actually. Sounds interesting. Players are European powers wrangling over treaty concessions after the end of World War I. That sounds fascinating. Sign me up. Yes. Oh, there you go. James says it's been 8 weeks since our last sponsored live stream. So yeah, I'd say I told you, they're going to be roughly 2 a month, and they're going to ebb and flow, just like the Kickstarters or other sponsored live stream. Just the way games come out, right? There's ebb and flows throughout the year. Some months there'll be more, but on average, we're shooting for about 2 a month. Downriver Rick, don't think you've done an interview since Francis Tresham. Well, that was such a hard interview, dude. That was Wrangling Cats. God bless him. That was Wrangling Cats. And he plans on doing more for upcoming Yes, I want to do those. Yes. CeeLo Man says, "Hey, Herd, late arrival. Love the idea of breaking up the teach and playthrough roundtable videos. It's coming. I know. Plus, honestly, I think that'll help. Just make them more approachable so that people don't see a wall of 4 or 5 hour streams, even the 3 hour ones. I feel like that's can be intimidating, and I need to make sure that happens. So that's going to be coming." Oh, that's a good point. Ren says, "I think the amount of live content that you produce also helps with the audience being able to feel more connected to the show." Yeah, the fact that there's engagement, right? Live, like this, for instance, right? And during the live streams, that makes a lot of sense as well. Interesting. Morton says, "Edward, between you and the rest of the regulars over time, meaning the regulars on the show, on the live streams and everything, and the community, you've managed to create the cheers of board games, if you guys remember the old show. The rest are more akin to supermarkets." I don't know about the rest being akin to that, but I appreciate that. I will happily take that analogy of us being the cheers of board games. Heck yeah, that's a huge compliment. Thank you. Not your play. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So Morton says really good or well stocked supermarkets, but not places you go to hang out. I could see that. Okay. That makes sense. Tony, wait, you take a half day off? On occasion, I go and play poker or, go spend time with Jess or anything like that. But yeah, it's not a lot of time I take off. That is true. Yeah, and the funny thing is even then, unless I'm at the poker table, I'm pretty much thinking about the show. It's a sickness. See, and this is kind of what we're talking about, like people welcoming Dave to the herd. That's awesome, right? Ah, yes, Jeff, March, Age of Steam coming. Yes. And so, David, going back to the whole building the community, he says, "I think it's interesting. The Patreon builds community around the website, right? Kickstarter's forced community to be built around YouTube." I completely disagree with that. No. I think that Patreon just builds a community, and I feel like Kickstarter is more akin to a store, more or less, and it's less about building a community because the engagement doesn't need to continue past the end of the campaign, whereas Patreon doesn't end. And the long term, this tends to form longer term bonds, I feel like, and that's yeah, I just feel like that's what it's more akin to than anything being website or YouTube. Nothing like that. Yeah, I am looking forward to Age of Steam meets Ian O'Toole Kickstarter campaign. It's going to be fantastic. And I appreciate it, Ray. Thanks. Yeah, the Cheers bar, Bull and Finch, is down the street. Maybe we could try and play a board game there. That'd be cool. Uh, Board Game Trucker asks, "How Edward? How far are you from the Connecticut border? About, or from Worcester? I'm trying to see if I can make it for a Friday night game night." I don't know the answers to these questions because I don't have my geography down real well as far as things, and this is going to sound really really either funny or dumb depending on your point of view. I know I am 2 hours from Foxwoods and I am 90 minutes from MGM Springfield, i.e. Springfield. We are Northwest Boston and Wakefield, so you do the math. You tell me. I'm not sure. Reynald says, "I thought I knew Great Western Trail, but you brought a solid guy to prove me wrong. Amazing episode. Awesome. All right. Cool. Glad you enjoyed it. And Jess, there you go. So apparently we're about an hour. There you go. There's an answer to that. So getting back to other questions here. Alexander asks, the last 2 episodes of the podcast have had deeper analysis of the reviewed game. I would argue that's not necessarily the case. I would say they have been more strategy discussion than we have had in previous episodes. Is it a trend, something you'll always do from now on, or is it 100% dependent on the person you find to be the guest host of the episode? It is very much the latter. It is entirely dependent on the guest host. They are not all going to be extremely long podcasts like the last 2 have been. I think they've been phenomenal, but that's not going to be the norm, nor is that going to be the trend. It's going to be depending on who the guest host is. So it'll be, the podcast will be like a box of chocolates. So we'll go from there. Okay. Andrew asks, since you mentioned on the last podcast that you were concerned and may have overlooked some facets of the game that you've already looked at, would you have any interest in going back to games you've already reviewed with someone who's played it several times and doing a deeper strategic look? Obviously, that depends on finding someone who can provide that perspective on a game. Will I go back and look at how my feelings have changed or thoughts on the game have changed since an earlier episode? Yes. Will I go back specifically to do deeper strategy discussion and analysis? No. That's not what I want the show to be about. That is not, if it happens during a review, I'm okay with it. I'm not editing that. And honestly, I kind of have just let Gaurav and Evan go because I found it really interesting discussion. But that I don't want strategy to be the focus of the reviews. If it happens, I'm all for it, but that's not ever going to be the good thing I don't talk for a living. The focus of it, for the simple fact that it's not what I want the show to be. So no, it's not going to be an intentional look at it that way, but it will be a happy thing when it happens. Cool. Any plans for another patron drive? Well, there you go, Adam. Might go well with a refresh of the patron level rewards and goals. It's something that we're considering. I'm excited about how things have gone for the last few months as far as content wise. So yeah, that's something that we're considering going forward. The question is, I can't do it alone. I need the community's help to help spread the word and engage others and explain to folks why it's worth supporting, whether it's our show or other content creators. It's very much subjective, I understand, and it's very much discretionary income that people are choosing to spend. But that said, yeah, I think it's something worth supporting. I think that I put out enough excellent content that I think it's something that should be supported. Obviously, you guys being the viewers and listeners need to make your own decision on that. Plus, not everybody's able to. If you can't support the show financially, you can absolutely spread the word about the show, whether that's on social media, BGG, friends in your game group, telling people about the show. That's a huge help. So yeah. So will we do a patron drive? If I can get the community behind me to support that, then yes. So that's going to be dependent on existing patrons and other folks that want to help out with that. If that's something that people are interested in trying to help build, especially for the idea of, getting more cameras and getting different camera views and all this stuff in there, then absolutely. I think that would be a great thing, but I'm going to leave that up to the community to dictate a bit. Okay. And no, it's not. It's worse. It's Wooster. Trucker. It's Wooster. Peabody. The pronunciations kill me up here. I think it's hysterical. Undefined asks, April is far away, but for the April Fool, I don't know. We have never once done an April Fool's stream thus far. we've done streams on April 1st, but none of them have been an April Fool's stream thus far. Are they only mass market games? Is that the only pool drawn from, or older games as well? I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I think it's going to be a what do we feel would be a good stream on April 1st. So yeah, we already have this year's planned out, and I think folks are going to really be excited about it. I think it's going to be a memorable event. All right. Junaid asks, any updates on new teaching guides for patrons? So for those that support the show at the $10 and up level, if you guys go on to BGG and you look at the Teotihuacan files, you'll see that we released one of the teaching aids that Rob formatted and has an amazing layout for, that we try and do all of my teaching aids, all my teaching scripts that I write up. We make those available to all of our patrons at the $10 and up level. And that is getting transitioned. Rob is going to be transitioning out of doing those, and we're bringing on a few other folks to help out with that. My goal is to have that transition done by the end of February, and then new folks taking over and catching up on the backlog that we have. Then from that point forward, my goal is, if we stream a game this week, to have the teaching aids available the following week. There's going to be a little bit of fudge factor built in there, but that's the goal. So that's where we're at with the teaching aids and what we're trying to do and trying to catch up with those. Okay? So a little patience this month as we do that transition, but going forward, looking forward to that. NBO asks, do you find you're still able to play the games you love as much as you would like doing what you do? Which games in your collection are being neglected and you feel bad about? Most of them. To answer your first question, do I still find that you're able to play the games I love as much? No, absolutely. Carte blanche, no. And any content creator will probably tell you the same if they're putting out regular content. Which games? A whole bunch of them. That's why a lot of the older games are getting, I'm trying to motivate folks to vote on, or I'm wanting to stream, because I want to play these games, which means we have to play them locally with the local group to get them ready for streams, which means I get to play them more. So that it's kind of a, what do you call it? I'm manipulating it a little bit, but in a good way. Plus, it's streams that folks want to see, right? Games like Automobile. I want to do a Masters of Venice. I want to do Navigador. I want, stuff like that. So, yeah. But do I get to as much? Not anywhere close. No. Yes, I'm starving. So I'm hoping, once again, it is running long. Yes, Jess. A banana sounds great. Good call. Are we attending, or are we planning on attending TotalCon in Marlborough, February 20th? It's entirely possible. Planning on it. We actually had a discussion last night about it, that it's possible that we come for a day, if not multiple days. We're going to try. I'm not promising, but we'll see. Okay? Mousetrap for April Fools. I like where your head's at, Loki. Is Container the best economic game? I don't know that I could definitively say something is the best. I don't even know if it's my favorite. But is it a really damn good economic game? Uh-huh. How essential is the expansion content for Container? Not at all. Does it add to the game? I think the gold containers and the player loans, both of which are something that you can do without actually having the physical expansion. You could do those on your own. Those are the two aspects of the expansion that I enjoy, but neither of them are vital. Yeah, I think my copy of Mousetrap is, I think, from 1963. I don't even know if it's complete. I just have it because it's Mousetrap. And as a kid, who didn't love Mousetrap? Oh, ate the banana that was up there. It happens. They're not like in lacquer or anything. They're real bananas whenever I have them up there. Robert asks, I generally watch or listen to all my heavy cardboard content via YouTube on my TV, but I've noted that ever since episode 115, none of the podcasts have been uploaded to the channel. An oversight, or what's the plan moving forward? We're going to get every episode uploaded to YouTube. I'm not going to promise a time frame because I am one person, but I do have folks that are willing to help out behind the scenes, so it's coming and it is planned. Also, somebody mentioned they haven't been able to get it on Stitcher. As things transition also this month from a different manager, I think is a good way to put it, of the website, moving from Matthew over to James, I think that we'll be able to get the Stitcher stuff ironed out as well. So patience on that as well. That's coming. A bit unrelated to board games. What's your favorite starting hand in poker? You mean other than pocket aces? No, everybody has a pet hand. I think mine's Queen 9 suited. I don't know why. I think it's because early on, playing online, I flopped a straight with Queen 9, got paid off a couple of times. Or flopped big hands with Queen 9 suited a couple of times, and it just became my pet hand. I know people whose pet hand is as bad as like 10-4 offsuit, Jack 7 offsuit, Queen 10, which not a bad hand, stuff like that. Everybody has their own little pet hands. I will usually play it if I can come in for a raise, if I'm in position. I will call behind possibly with it if I'm in position, but I will not play it just because, and I will not play it at a position usually. So there you go. And Adam, any news that you can share in terms of collaboration? Oh yeah, with Sierra Madre and Eon Game Design. So yeah, I mentioned that earlier. Potential partnership in the works there. Looking forward to that. Unfortunately, Undefined, we're not going to make the Arizona Game Fair this year because this year, for the smaller regional conventions, we're trying to limit how many we go to and going to have those on a rotating basis, kind of is a way to put it. Because honestly, went to a lot of conventions last year and I have no desire to ever do that again. I think this year the range is anywhere from like 5 to 8, 6 to 9 conventions at most this year. The first convention that I will for sure be attending, TotalCon being kind of an exception because that's localish. The first one that officially is on the docket is GAMA, which is a trade show. It is not open to the public. That is the first official one that we're going to be going to. That's going to be in March. That's the only one that is officially on the schedule. Essen and HeavyCon are two of the others. Those are foregone conclusions. Anything else, still up in the air. So stand by on those. All right. All right. Oh, all right. This is a pretty good ending here. For those that want board game discussion, you can goodbye. Take care. We're going to talk a little poker. No. All right. So Board Game Trucker says, I probably sound completely ignorant asking the question. Not at all. Only dumb questions are the ones that aren't asked, right? So, Edward, as someone who knows nothing about poker, meaning Board Game Trucker, my initial reaction is, how come you like it so much when there's so much randomness? Seems like as a heavy gamer, it would be too random for you. All right. There is a fair amount of randomness in poker. However, and this is something that I'm actually in the process of teaching someone close to me about poker is a long game. It is not about the short term. Short term results can be horribly skewed one way or the other. You can run hotter than the sun, or you could be completely ice cold for a long stretch. It happens. It's called variance. However, the reason I enjoy poker so much is because it is me versus you. And by you, usually it's a bunch of yous. It's usually, and when I go play live, it's full ring, right? So it's usually anywhere between 7 and 10, or 7 and 9 opponents, 6 and 9 opponents, usually. And it's a competition of decision making. It's also a game of incomplete information. So it's about deduction, it's about inferred, making induction, deduction, as well as being able to make good decisions based on incomplete information as well as math. So, for an example, if we're playing a hand of poker and I have a flush draw, there are 13 in a suit of a certain flush. There are 2 on the board and I have 2 in my hand. That's 4 of the 13. That means there are 9 unknown. They may have been folded by other players, but I can't know that. So that means there are 9 outs I have, or 9 cards that are going to make my hand, right? On the flop, meaning the first, after the first 3 cards are known, the 4th and 5th community cards are unknown. There are still 2 cards to come. Simple math, rough says, on the flop, you multiply the number of outs by 4, and that's roughly your percentage to be able to get that card by the river. So 9 outs times 4, that's 36. So I'm roughly a 2-to-1 dog, or I need 5-to-1 to be able to make the call that I'm going to hit on the next street. So it becomes a game of math, but then there are things such as implied odds. Am I going to get paid? If I make no money after my card comes, it was a bad decision because I actually made the call with implied odds, the implied odds being I'm going to make some amount of money after I make my hand, but if I don't, then I actually didn't. So it's about playing the player, it's about the math, it's about the deduction, it's all of those things. And it's a game about storytelling. And the thing I love is when you're playing against good players. Don't get me wrong, I love playing against bad players because it's easier. But when playing against good players, you can make moves or you can tell stories. The story is the story you're telling about what it is your 2 hole cards are. And it's amazing to me that if people understand the story that you're telling, how you can manipulate those people into making the wrong decision, whether that's bluffing and making them lay down a better hand or making them call when it's an inferior hand because you've told the story that you're weaker than you are. It is fascinating to me. And it is a social game as well. Because, I mean, everyone has seen poker online or on TV where you get these guys in hoodies, sunglasses, and headphones. I wear hoodies, but I don't wear my hood up. I just wear hoodies because I get cold easy. I have headphones, but I 99% of the time don't wear them at the poker table. I never wear sunglasses. It's a sign of insecurity, in my opinion. And I'm exactly how I am here is exactly how I am at the poker table. I'm personable. I'm welcoming. I'm friendly. Even though I'm trying to beat people over the head, just like I am in a board game, doesn't mean you can't have fun doing it. And we usually have fun. If I'm not talking, if I'm super quiet at a poker table, it usually means I'm uncomfortable, which means I'm not playing well. And that's a bad mix for me. And so being able to talk, people should have fun when playing poker. We're not solving or curing cancer. You're playing a game. And so you should be enjoying yourself. And so it should be an enjoyable experience. And when you get these people that are all like, "Arr," right? And I have fun with them, needling being teasing in a sense that just kind of throwing them off their game because don't be miserable. Have fun. Enjoy yourself. Everybody takes bad beats. I've taken plenty. Or I've played really poorly and made dumb decisions. That's on this guy. But I guess to answer your question, the amount of randomness on any given hand, yes. But long term, if I consistently make good decisions, I'm going to make money. I provided for myself and for 2.5 years. Not because I was consistently lucky. I was just really good. I'm nowhere near as good as I was, and the games have gotten harder. Live games are still really bad. Live players are still terrible. The majority, which I'm grateful for. But I love it. I absolutely love it. Even, oh, yeah, I love it. Although my last trip to Foxwoods, God, Foxwoods was a misery to play at. I don't know that I ever want to go back there. Just the players weren't enjoyable. The games were bad. And this was on a Saturday. Oof. Yeah, anyway. All right. Undefined. Since you're talking about poker, nicest chips you have, and if they're nearby, a peek at them. You've seen them actually. Well, these aren't the nicest. These are just the dice chips, but the heavy cardboard ones, you've seen them on stream before. The dice ones, and the recent ones that you've been seeing on the stream are the nicest set that I have. The gem chips. I really want a custom set of heavy cardboard clay chips. I would love a set, but those are like $500-600, and that is a luxury I don't have right now. So not something that's on the immediate horizon. HeavyCon, Memorial Day weekend, Boston area. To be determined the exact hotel, and still invite only. Go to the website, heavycardboard.com/HeavyCon, I think. Get on the wait list. And I'll be honest, if you're getting on the wait list now, you're unlikely to make it for this year. We'll see how it goes in subsequent years. I can't promise, guys. Everybody that has come that has been pleasant will be invited back. And for the most part, that's most everybody. And so they get first dibs, and then we're going to, based on the venue, expand from there, but expand slowly. So we'll see how it goes. Exactly, Patrick. Rule of 4 and 2. It's a good way to do easy math at the table, but that's super basic, and the pot odds and just the odds of your cards coming. It's simple math, but it's quick stuff, but it's also about implied odds, as well as playing a balanced range. And there's so much to poker. I am so not anywhere near where I used to be, and even when I used to be really good, I never was a master, and it's going to be a lifetime, and I love it so. Oh, and no. Board Game Trucker says it's not a game you play from your gut. It's a game of calculations and odds. Fascinating. Not entirely. There is nothing, and I do mean this literally, there is nothing I trust more than my gut, meaning my intuition. My intuition in my entire life has never been wrong. Ever. It's only when I don't trust my gut do I make mistakes at the poker table, or I get impatient. Those are the only two times. I made a recent, there was a hand that I briefly talked about on a recent podcast, last episode before, about a hand of pocket kings, that I made a mistake, and I could have prevented the mistake in 3 different points, and I didn't fix it in any of them, and I didn't follow my gut, and I made the wrong decision because I didn't follow my gut. So intuition is a huge part of poker, and I have trained and honed my intuition to be something I can trust in my everyday life 100%. So no, it's a mix of both, and that's part of the fascinating thing about poker. Yeah, there you go. Loki says, I always wear headphones, but I almost never have anything playing in them. I have Sade. I am a huge, I cannot, it's Pavlovian. If I listen to Sade on YouTube, like when I'm prepping for a show, or I'm prepping for a podcast, or I'm doing anything, writing a patron update or anything like that, if Sade comes on, I immediately am like, want to go play cards. It's Pavlovian. It's super chill. That's what I listen to. Spontaneous live playthroughs are coming, David. As we get back onto caffeine instead of YouTube, we're going, or not instead of, let me, calm down. As we supplement live streams on YouTube back with caffeine, there's going to be some, what I'm calling gonzo streams. So just spontaneous, hey, we're going to go and stream this game or this whatever. That's going to be happening down the road. When? It happens when it happens. Spontaneous. There you go. Yes, Sade. Slow your roll, Loki. Just saying. All right, that's it. I got to get out of here, guys. I have answered everything. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you. I appreciate you guys spending a few hours, 2.5 hours. It always happens. But I answered all the questions, I think. Enjoyed it. Hopefully you all did. Don't forget, like down there for the show. It helps the show. Preferably thumb up, but if not, I'll take a thumb down. That's fine. You know what? It helps the show nonetheless, but I prefer thumb ups. Subscribe. That helps you guys, let you guys know when we go live. And right here, if you want to join these 730 patrons and help us get more equipment, really would appreciate it. Check it out, pledgehc.com. You can go there. It can be a annual thing through the show or through the store or monthly through Patreon. Really, really appreciate it. So that said, have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for race for the Chinese, race for the Chinese Zodiac, and then on Friday, 18 Lilliput. All right, take care, guys. Cheers. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.